Well, hello, everybody. It is your favorite day of the week. Another day of a lifetime of Hallmark. I am Les Kurkendaal-Barrett. Hello, Jason Bowers.
Hello, Les Kurkendaal-Barrett.
And hello, Kurt Fitzpatrick.
Hello, Les Kurkendaal-Barrett, and hello, Jason Bowers.
We take movies from both Lifetime and the Hallmark Channel and try to make sense of them.
We're not very successful, though, because they don't often make sense, but they are fun to watch.
And we go down all kinds of rabbit holes. We talk about Angelian quite a bit. We talk about the show Enos.
June Squibb. We are team June Squibb all the way.
And we have Black China news every single episode.
So with that in mind, why don't you listen to a lifetime of Hallmark? You can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This is a Kurkendaal-Barrett presentation. Well, hello everybody. It's your favorite day of the week. It's time for another episode of The Reality Reading Rainbow, where I talk about books written by reality stars, primarily those from Bravo, and I try to make sense of them. I am your host, Les Kurkendaal-Barrett, and today we're gonna do something a little different. So if you are a fan of the Real Housewives, especially the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I'm sure that you've heard that Erika Jayne, otherwise known as Erika Jayne, and her husband Tom are in a little hot water right now. And so I decided to do something a little different. I decided that since this is in the headlines and we are reading about it in various papers like the LA Times, think pieces in People magazine, and online, it counts as reading. So I decided that I wanted to get someone in here to help us break that down. And so I got the fabulous Ronald Richards Esquire to come in and speak to us. Now, this man is, first of all, he's a very nice guy. You know, he took the time out of his busy day to come to talk to me. But he's very knowledgeable, and he's very knowledgeable about the law. So, first of all, before I continue, I want you to get your cell phones out and follow Ronald Richards on Twitter. His Twitter handle is @RonaldRichards. I'll wait while you do it. Okay, you did it? Done. He tweets legal information. He's an attorney himself. And he's very, very knowledgeable about this case. And his tweets are actually very interesting and very informative as well. So here's a little introduction for Ronald Richards. The 27-and-a-half-year attorney licensed on both coasts has a propensity to expose bad apples in his profession. Richards has a long pedigree of published opinions in both the federal and state appellate courts. He has an extensive experience in criminal and civil work. He was a paid legal analyst for NBC, including the Michael Jackson trial. He has also sat as a temporary judge and taught law school. He's able to extract documents at a bionic rate and uses his media skills to expose public harms. Welcome, Ronald Richards. So my first question to you is, what interested you about this case? What inspired you to follow this case?
Well, I had started to see symptoms of problems with this well-known Southern California attorney, which reminded me of another Southern California attorney named Michael Avenatti. And so I felt like this is something that my office should start tracking, because I felt there was a lot of people out there that did not know what was going on with this lawyer, and it needed to be publicized.
Right. All right. And before I continue, you have an amazing Twitter, and that's how I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but you have a major cult following among the various Bravo groups. And so before we go further, can you tell us your Twitter just so we can get more people following you, because your information is amazing?
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's at Ronald Richards.
Great. So hit follow immediately. So, okay, sometimes the legal language can get a little complicated. And so we lay people sometimes can't get a handle on what's going on. Can you help us break down what the court case is about in layman's terms?
Yes. Well, let's start with the most pressing case, and that's the contempt hearing. That's where the firm out of Chicago, Edelson PC, filed a civil action, and then they also brought a civil contempt hearing. In civil contempt, you can ask for custody or money to try to coerce compliance. For criminal contempt, it requires the appointment of a prosecutor, and there could be actual long-term criminal exposure. So in this case, we have a civil contempt hearing where the judge entered a $2 million judgment against the law firm and the lawyer. And then now it's trying to be expanded to include the personal assets of Erika Jayne. And so that's what's going on with that case. Then there's a civil action on behalf of other former clients of Girardi arising out of the Boeing case to get further judgments for money that was misappropriated. Then there's a involuntary bankruptcy that was bought by other Girardi clients, or another bucket of creditors is lawyers that had fee sharing arrangements with them, meaning they brought the case to the firm, the money was settled, but then the lawyer that brought the case to the firm didn't get paid. So this involuntary bankruptcy, I can't tell if this is lawyers or just other former clients, because it's too early in the involuntary proceedings. And that was brought against Girardi personally and the law firm. Then another bucket of cases is all these finance companies that lent the firm money on their future settlements. And then another bucket of cases is vendors of the firm, like Veritex is owed over $500,000. All the civil cases now are going to be stayed because of the involuntary bankruptcy, except for the contempt proceedings. Those are not subject to what's called the automatic stay.
Uh-huh. So question. So when you were talking about this, you mentioned Mrs. Girardi's assets as well. So I know that Erika Jayne has said several times in the show that they don't have a prenup. So does this mean that she's also going to be on the hook for the things that he owes?
Well, according to her divorce petition, they were married on January 7th, 2000. So all the income, if there was no prenup agreement, all the income in assets that were acquired after the date of marriage, which was almost 20 years ago, are community property under California law. The petition under where it says date of separation has the acronym TBD, which means to be determined. And that separation date would then basically shield any income that she earns after that date, but it's intentionally, in my opinion, left blank. So it gives her some sort of flexibility. If she was just recently transferred some money, she may try to claim that as her separate property. But the short answer is all of their assets, including the assets that she acquired with Mr. Girardi, are going to be subject to the order or any orders, all the community property. But she's also being named as an individual defendant. So any judgment against her individually will also reach her separate property. I doubt she has a lot of separate property.
Well, I found it interesting because I was reading one of your tweets and you mentioned that you couldn't find proof of Erika Jayne having any assets.
Yes, I'll address that.
Yeah.
The house that I found that Tom Girardi's biggest two assets, besides owning some interest in various real estate partnerships, is his house in Pasadena that he's had since 1970 and the office building at 1126 Wilshire Boulevard. He's had those prior to marriage. So those would not be community property. It doesn't look like the two of them ever bought a house together, which in second marriages is a standard operating procedure. Most spouses want you to buy a house with them so they're on title for some asset. But I didn't see any assets that they jointly purchased in the public record.
So then basically she doesn't really own anything like property wise.
Well, real property wise, she seems to own IP in her clothing line. She owns there's EJ Global, which is it looks like an IP holding company or a holding company for her assets, but it doesn't look like they've purchased a lot of property together in their own name. That's my only point. There's no like big family home together.
Right. So you talked about assets being frozen. Now, as I was doing my research, I saw things about assets being frozen, and then I saw things about assets being seized. Can you tell us what the difference is?
Yeah, the court in Illinois, the judge in Illinois issued an asset freeze, which is like a restraining order, basically, and he ordered basically none of the attorneys for Girardi can get paid. He ordered all of his bank accounts frozen, meaning that if he violates the order, the judge could separately take him into custody and hold him in contempt for violating a federal court order. And he ordered the law firm not to transfer any assets at all. And he ordered them not to transfer any files. So the issue is that that's called a freeze. Basically, you can't move assets. A seizure is when the assets are subject to like a forfeiture case, or where they're actually forfeited or seized by a judgment creditor, like through a levy, and they actually leave the possession, custody, control of the judgment debtor. Like if someone puts a levy on your bank account, the money will then go to the judgment creditor, or if it's forfeited, to the government.
Okay. Now, there is a company called EJ Global, which I guess is Erika Girardi's company. Now, does the timing of her company and her company coming into play kind of line up with the financial issues that Tom Girardi started to have?
No, because the company was created over 11 years ago. And she's listed as the only manager. Tom is the agent of process. It's a recording artist company. So the company is community property. But it doesn't, I think it's been around a long time.
Right. Okay. So one of the things that, Erika Girardi has been on The Real Housewives for a number of years now. And one of her big things is she talks about how much money she spends on her glam squad and how much money she spends on her clothes. And I remember when I think she said this more than once, that she spends like around $40,000 a month on things. Plus, she has songs like called Expensive, how she talks about how it's expensive to be me. So are these things, can courts and can they use this stuff as evidence?
Yes. A court, either party to a case can use statements of the other party without any further qualification. It's called an admission. So the statements that she's made on TV are certainly admissible. However, you need to tailor that with it is TV. So if she's exaggerated that she could certainly take that position, but it doesn't help her that her husband is busy allegedly stealing client funds. And there's certainly a plethora of evidence that that is occurring, and findings already by clear and convincing evidence by the court in Illinois. It'll be hard. It's not a good look for her to be claiming she's spending all this money when you synchronize it with what is going on with her husband.
And I know in the past, one of the things that I loved about your tweets is you pointed out something that a lot of people don't realize, which is the fact that a lot of these housewives portray themselves as these rich, wealthy women, when in fact, a lot of them really aren't. And a lot of them are, playing it up for the camera or getting themselves into debt because of trying to keep this image going. And I know in the past too, there was another housewife, Teresa Giudice. I don't know if you're familiar with that case from the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and she and her husband both ended up getting jail time because of this. Now, do you think that Tom and Erika may get jail time?
I'm very confident that Tom Girardi is going to be indicted and charged criminally because I've lived in Southern California since the late '60s, and I can tell you I've never seen a lawyer do the type of things that have occurred in this case. These are brazen. This is brazen conduct, agreeing to settlements without client consent, diverting settlement funds, making payments to clients with settlement funds instead of just dispersing the entire amount, and then not paying lawyers that you had fee sharing agreements with. I think that's a given. As far as the other aspect of your question, can you just repeat the first aspect? I just wanted to make sure I answered it.
Well, because you mentioned about how sometimes housewives aren't as wealthy as they portray themselves.
I got it. Yeah. That now let me just tell you, Beverly Hills is a very small city, and it is not a big city, and people know each other. And the problem with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is that everyone claims to be living in Beverly Hills, and they don't live in Beverly Hills. The fact that the post office box is 90210 does not mean you're in the city of Beverly Hills. It means your mail is delivered in that zip code. It was done years ago with different developers basically convincing the post office to expand the 90210 zip code for marketing reasons, but it has nothing to do with Beverly Hills City Services. So most of these cases that I see on TV, that the women or the men don't even live in Beverly Hills, and which is interesting enough. But to respond to your point, these reality shows have a way of feeding the actors because they're reality actors, and in order to make their content more desirable, they end up overextending themselves one after another to try to outdo each other by spending obscene amounts of money or things that cost them a lot of money, much more than they're being paid for on the show. And they end up getting themselves into bad positions because a truly wealthy person that has excessive wealth, and I represent a lot of wealthy people, the last thing they want to be is on a TV show flaunting it, especially in this era that we live in now, where we're in the middle of a horrible medical and economic situation, as you know.
And it's so funny. And full disclosure, I live in Los Angeles. I lived in West Hollywood for many, many years, which is the next neighborhood over from Beverly Hills. I live in Los Feliz now. So it is funny that like when I'm watching the show and they talk about Beverly Hills and you see the woman at her house and it's like, wait a minute, that looks like the Valley. Or in Erika Girardi's case, she lived in Pasadena, which if you don't live in Los Angeles, Pasadena is it's over 10 miles away from Beverly Hills. And thinking of it now, I don't think that any one of them actually lives in Beverly Hills.
Neither do I. I didn't see anybody. You know, people don't realize there's developments with the 90210 where you have an 818 area code. You're facing the valley, but your zip code's 90210. Another one, you're way up on the top of Mulholland. It's not Beverly Hills. And half of, all of the post office, which is just north of Heather Road in Coldwater or shortly north of Sunset on Benedict, is all Los Angeles, not Beverly Hills. And it's a shame that people think from watching a television show that people that actually live in Beverly Hills, very few would ever flaunt money like that and be so desperate. But I guess it makes great TV. And that's why they've thrusted themselves into a public figure forum and why they're fair comment. And even in the contracts, so Les, that they signed, they waived any claim of defamation or any claim of any sort of privacy if they're going to go on these shows. It is literally impossible to get damages from a reality TV show contract. You waive every right of every kind to be on those shows.
Wow. And I do agree with you too. It's like, I've lived in LA long enough that I know people with real money, as like from the film industry and different businesses. And the people I know who have the most money are very kind of low key about it. And right. you don't know. Like, I have a couple of friends who, until I went to their homes, I had no idea. I had no idea that these people actually had money, because it's like a lot of the people are you're very private about it. And you really, it's just something you really don't talk about, But so Erika got herself in a little trouble for selling clothes from her line. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Now, why did she and how did she get in trouble for this?
Okay, well, I would say the correct word is she's looking at trouble now, because even though the judge said, Mr. Girardi, you cannot transfer your assets, she went ahead and started selling her clothes through a vendor. I know that, just for full disclosure too, my office is in West Hollywood. I own property there. My firm does. And we love West Hollywood, just so you know, as much as Beverly Hills. So the issue I wanted to tell you, though, is that with respect to what she was doing, when a judge tells her husband don't transfer assets, it's not smart to then go publicly and start selling your assets. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the other creditor, meaning Mr. Edelson, that brought this suit, he wisely, and he probably saw, I know that he sees my comments online, he ran to court and said, wait a sec, I need to get the contempt freeze order expanded to her. So that's what he did. And he ran to court, and that's going to be the hearing this week that we'll be covering to make her acknowledge she is subject to the asset freeze.
So she's going to court this week?
Well, he's ordered her to be in court or through counsel, the judge did. So, and that's why I told everyone that was following my feed to let her know that there's this order. Now, some people that don't understand law were making comments to me, well, you can't serve her via Twitter. And I said, of course, you're not trying to serve her. You're trying to give her reasonable notice. That's what the judge said. So obviously, all the people that gave her notice, that'll be part of their argument that she was told by, 10,000 people that she has court this week. So she can't claim she didn't know about it.
Who knew that one day we would be using social media to be like, hey, listen, I tweeted at you that you needed to be paying attention to this.
By the way, there's precedent for that. It's funny when you get all the lay people commenting. We're not trying to serve process, you're trying to serve notice. So if someone has an active Twitter feed and you send them notice on their Twitter feed, judges have found that to be constructive notice.
Wow.
That's not unprecedented. That
wow.
There's opinions for that, believe it or not.
Wow. So okay, just to get this clear in my mind. Okay, so when your assets are frozen, does this mean that like you can't even go to the ATM and get $20 out? Like, does it mean like no, you get like no money whatsoever, or
That's
what?
correct. The way this judge did it, because it was such a brazen theft, the judge said, I'm freezing all of your assets, not even to pay lawyers. So you can go, of course, to the ATM and withdraw money because there's no formal levy. However, if you do that and the other side finds out about it, they're going to move to hold you in contempt for violating that order. I wouldn't do it. If a judge orders something orally, I would not violate the order if I were that person.
Wow. Wow. Oh, okay. So I also saw in my research that Tom ended up getting a PPP loan. Is that true?
Yes, I researched that and saw that I believe it was $1.5 million. Incredibly.
Wow. And so and I was going through some of these cases as well. And so it seems like, you know, there was a case that had to do with the gas company. There was a case that had to
That was the victim. That was the victims. By the way, for the record, it was the law firm that got the PPP loan.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same thing. He's the owner of the law firm.
Right.
But it is just a nuance. I want to make it accurate. As far as there was victims of Pacific Gas and Electric explosion that there's an $11 million judgment because he didn't pay them.
Right. And then I was looking because it was that, and then there was a lawsuit where these women had like faulty hip replacements or something like that. So my question to you is, okay, so he takes money from these victims, right? He gets the money. Do these victims, like, does he pay them like a little bit and pat them on the head and say, okay, I paid you? Because it sounds like the reason how he got caught with this is a lot of the victims were saying, hey, this money that I'm getting doesn't add up to what I think I should be getting. So does he just kind of give them like a little bit, or how does that work? Like,
some of his former clients, he didn't make any payments. Some he made partial payments, which makes no sense because the settlement is, if it's paid in one shot, you don't partially pay your clients. You don't put your client on a payment plan to disperse their portion of the settlement proceeds. That's a red flag.
Mm-hmm. Right. So now, after all is said and done, do you think they're going to get their money?
No, I don't think they're going to get their money, because when I started digging into this, which is why I felt I needed to use my specialized skill set to really understand the gravity and scope of this, I saw over $30.5 million worth of claims, a lot of them attachment liens and judgments already.
Wow. And that's so sad, because these are people who are not only victims, these are people who I'm sure need that money to live.
Well, yeah, I mean, or they've lost a family member or suffered a horrible injury. But I mean, yeah, for a lawyer to re-victimize the victims of a catastrophic loss like this is unimaginable and unconscionable. And I mean, it takes someone look, I've heard recordings of him threatening his former clients that if they post things on social media, he would sue them. So I appreciate, and maybe some others out there may not appreciate, why it takes a lawyer of my experience and caliber to expose this, because I'm not afraid of getting sued by him or any legal action, because one, it's the truth, and two, he's a public figure, and three, somebody needs to get the message out succinctly and with documents, and not everyone can do that. And that's why when I felt it was an important public service issue for me to put this out there. And I'm glad I did, based upon the response I've gotten from 99% of the people.
Oh yeah. And trust me, you in the Bravo Facebook page world, you have a cult following. Trust me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, they'll follow at Ronald Richards, and I'll keep going then.
So a couple more things before I let you go. He is now is he mentally fit to stand trial? I heard that
Of course he is. That was a horrible, a ridiculous thing that his lawyer threw out last week, because one, he signed declarations in both his divorce case and in another case against a client within the last 30 days. So he just didn't lose competency. Plus, I have other lawyers telling me he's still calling them saying it's going to be straightened out as of last night. So he's totally competent. I mean, really, to suggest that Tom Girardi would have lost his mental competence is going to crash and burn once it meets any scrutiny. I mean, to be, quote, legally incompetent, you need to be basically on extreme medication or comatose. You're not to just, after you steal a bunch of money, allegedly, and do the things that he's accused of doing, and some he's already had findings that he's actually done, you're not going to get out of it by claiming that you're suffering from a mental illness. That's laughable, seriously.
Wow. And now there are some who also say that the divorce is a ruse. Now what do you think?
Well, it seems like they had a really good marriage. He met her as a young lady at Chasen's, which is a place I used to go to a lot as a kid. So I'm very familiar with it. On Doheny and Beverly Boulevard. It's where it's, just so you know, it's where the Bristol Farms is now.
Oh, okay. So like near Medeo, like on that street.
Well, yeah, but Medeo's not there anymore either, right?
Yeah, right. Moved. It's under. Yeah, they're moving that.
Right, no, but you know where Beverly and Doheny is.
I used to go to that Bristol Farms. I know.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you probably go to the one. Yeah, there's one on Sunset and Fairfax now.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, that's what used to be there before Bristol Farm was Chasen's, and that was a very famous restaurant. Ronnie Clint was the maitre d'. I used to go there all the time as a kid, and played a lot of parties there in the family parties and professional events, and that's where he met his wife. Apparently he was a part owner of that restaurant as well. So it doesn't look to me like they have a bad marriage at all. And I think what the plan is that there again, evidence will come out and see this. If there were some transfers to her of community property, she'll try to claim it's separate property and not subject to any seizure. But that's going to lose too, because it's what's called a fraudulent conveyance or a preference. And the trustee will return that immediately.
Wow. Well, this has been so informative, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. But now, before we go, is there anything else that we should know about this case, or anything that that we as lay people should know?
Well, I think what you should know is that it's a very what's called fluid situation. That the involuntary bankruptcy, there's 21 days to respond to the summons. It's going to take time to get all this together. There's going to be a tremendous amount of forensic accounting and tracing that's going to need to come in, and that everyone needs to be patient and let now a team of a lot of different professionals get their hands into this, and that we'll be covering this and trying to break it down for everybody. So you don't have to spend hours and hours pulling these documents together yourself or going through very verbose and loquacious articles. I try to hit the bullet points hard and fast. So when everyone else is going through their busy day, they can be a part of the story and have the same reactions that I have and a lot of other people have, which has the gamut of reactions. And we'll keep covering it because I think it's extremely important. This type of fraud is a huge breach of the public trust. It doesn't happen very often. And everyone shouldn't think that their own lawyer or lawyers that they do business with in the future would ever dream of doing this type of behavior. This is a complete aberrant behavior, and it needs to be exposed, and there needs to be a consequence.
Wow. Well, Ronald Richards, thank you for your time. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me about this. So before we go, can you once again tell us how to find you and how to follow you?
Sure. I'll be posting about this and trying to saturate this as much as possible. And it's at Ronald Richards, RONALD Richards, RICHARDS. And you can follow it on Twitter. And thank you very much for this podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you, and thanks for coming on. And happy holidays, sir.
Happy holidays to you. Best to you and your family. Take care.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Thanks. Bye bye. So that was it. Our interview with Ronald Richards. I hope that this helped. This helped you understand the case against Erika and Tom a little better. Once again, thank you, Ronald Richards, for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with me. And I guess that's it. Oh, wait, before I go, though, you know what? It's the holidays, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, first and foremost, happy holidays to all of you. I know it's a weird time this year, but please stay safe and, make the best of this holiday what you can. But yeah, please stay safe. Take care of yourself. I want you all back here next year. Also, I would like to issue out a special thank you for the people at Shut Up Mountain, because if it wasn't for you all, I wouldn't have this podcast right now. This all started out as just a little joke on the Shut Up Mountain page, and it has morphed into something beyond what I ever dreamt it could be. And it's actually taking me on a different career path. And so I really appreciate all the support I'm getting regarding this podcast. Also, if you want to find me, I now have a Twitter handle. And so my Twitter handle is at the Reality Read 1. I'll repeat that, at the Reality Read 1. You can also get a hold of me via email at therealityreadingrainbow@gmail.com. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening, and please have a safe and happy holiday. Bye.